Oh god, at last! I'm an actual proper game developer. Now we just wait for the money to roll in. Oh, for fuck! On December 10th, 2025, I released Last Orders, my attempt at a first-person multiplayer encapsulation of the British pub experience, complete with drinking, smoking, dancing, fighting, and gambling. Over the course of a few months, I crafted an experience based upon the joy I had shared with my friends over the previous summer across various fine and less fine establishments, effectively hoping to bottle that connection into something to be enjoyed by the masses on their PCs. I made a host of TikToks and YouTube shorts throughout the game's development, and a long-form YouTube video much like this one that coincided with its release, hoping that would convert into at least a couple sales. There was just one problem. Nobody bought it. Whilst my previous video focusing on the development of my project Build Fight game, which you can wishlist on Steam by the way, had been met with positive reception and views ranging from 1,000 to 3,000, the Last Orders video crawled to just under 150 views and stopped. This was disheartening to say the least. I mean, don't get me wrong, I never expected a game that I had made over only a few months with an extremely limited marketing push to turn me into some kind of millionaire, but I had hoped it would earn me somewhere around £1,000 in its first month. That's about 400 copies. For a game price at just $5 plus a launch discount placing it only $3.50, I don't think that was too far-fetched. I spent the time after the game's release in a strange state of melancholy. I'd known this was a possibility, but after spending half my life making games, my first proper release being received so poorly was more devastating than I'd expected. I had genuine, tangible evidence that I had failed. I'd done everything right, met every deadline, made a game I genuinely believed was fun, and it still was not enough. I felt it deep in my soul. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this indie game development business. Is what a fucking coward would say. I mean, if in 10 years' time I'm working some dead-end job and I can't at least say that I tried everything, I don't think I could live with myself. I don't think I could forgive myself. I love video games as a medium. I love playing games with my friends. I love the beautiful stories told in so many different ways. I love making games and witnessing people get joy out of that. I will be damned if I let one tiny, weeny, gigantic failure stop me. Still no word on the whereabouts of Peter K. Codes. It was all my fault. I drove him away. And he was the only one that could have made another mediocre friend slop title. Yes. PTK Codes was a hero. I just couldn't see it. What? He was a thief! A criminal! He used a non-commercial rider license to make a commercial product! I want that Virgin Gouda prosecuted! I want him strung up by his Wish AirPods! I want Peter K. Codes! Right, I've got my groove back, so what now? Well, before I can fix anything, I need to figure out what went wrong. Time for the postmortem. I'm seeing clear signs of a lack of marketing here. Yeah, that's underbaked gameplay, lack of clear goals, lack of incentive for continued playing. So, cause of death. Seems clear to me now. Nobody knew a thing about this game before it launched, so the initial injection of sales on launch that Steam games rely upon was extremely lackluster. I tried to make up for this with a long-form video, but that was dead on arrival, and the people that did buy the game had no reason to stick around long enough to share with their friends or leave a positive review, so there was no snowball effect to be had at all. I know based on my own experience, the game is fun, but it's at its best when you have a full lobby with your friends to mess around with.
I've noticed a bug. I've noticed a bug. When you spin, it doesn't take away £1, it takes away 1 penny.
Without that, you just end up in a bar with a bunch of NPCs that would just wander around and occasionally start fights. Without any tangible goals, there's no reason to keep playing, and therefore no reason to share with your friends, which is where the real, pure fun is at. So, next question. How do you raise the dead? Before I can try and sell the game better, there's some sorely needed changes to be made. I'll be the first to admit that on launch, Last Orders was a bit half-baked. Despite the game's nature as a social sandbox, players needed a bit more guidance, so to speak. Right now, you just get dropped into the pub with your friends and you can do whatever. For the most part, the game's mechanics have little to no incentive beyond being funny, which is by design, but I still think it's a problem that needs to be addressed. So, the plan is this. Instead of the game being effectively an indefinite experience until everyone gets bored or something breaks, individual rounds have a time limit. During this time, players are given a task to complete: drink some amount of beers, win some amount of money, defeat some amount of NPCs in combat, dance with some amount of NPCs or players. That sort of thing. At the end of a round, each player is given a letter ranked depending on how many tasks they completed and to what degree. Every player's individual grade is averaged out for an entire grade across the lobby, and you get this nice looking report card which will reward you for doing well and get some light-hearted abuse for doing poorly. The idea here is to give the players more of an incentive to actually engage with the game. Crucially, this system doesn't need to be too advanced. I designed the game such that all its mechanics are inherently goofy. It's fun just to mess around with. All that's needed with the task system is to get the ball rolling for the players to start having some fun on their own. On its own, I think this system already adds a lot of depth. However, environments would still feel quite stale with copies of generic NPCs everywhere. For that to inject some life, I'll add certain special NPCs, which have unique character models and can be interacted with by the players, which will begin a basic quest line for which the player may receive a unique reward, be it money or special items. Think, 2 kids in a trench coat want you to buy them a beer, or there's a shifty guy that wants to sell you some stuff, that sort of thing. This, plus a few extra quality of life features, think Steam achievements or extra avatars, would in my view leave the game in a much more complete state. I have to actually make that happen now, don't I? I see the problem here. Let's get to work. Ugh, right, here goes nothing. It wasn't enough. It's not enough. Of course it's not enough. I mean, the game was only half the battle. Much worse games than Last Orders have performed much better. It's the reach. I need more eyes on the game, but I tried that. What went wrong? Let's check the video.
What does it mean to be British? When people think of British culture, a lot of things might spring to mind. Kings and queens, old wars and new wars, cars, Spitfires, scientific breakthroughs, freedom, oppression, racism, equality, miners, farmers, TV, film, music. But to me, it's something else. Pubs are more than just centres for alcohol abuse. At the very best...
Okay, this explains things. It's just not very good, really, is it? The whole video is kind of shoddy like that. The audio doesn't line up. The live action bits are poorly lit and messy. I don't know that I'd watch that video to the end. How could I expect 3,000 people to do the same, much less actually make a purchase based on that? I rushed it out the door to coincide with the game release and didn't leave myself enough time to keep things up to a good standard. The only reason I shot most of it live action was to save time animating. All it is filling the video up out of laziness because I couldn't be bothered with animating it. Luckily, I know differently now, and wouldn't be so ridiculous as to degrade the video's overall quality to save myself some time. Shut up. So, the fix is quite simple. If I want the video to perform better, I have to do better. Proper animation this time, better writing, more polish. If the video is worth watching, it's much more believable that the game would be worth playing.
So, here's what I've come up with.
Oh god, at last, I'm an actual proper game developer. Now we just wait for the money to roll in. Oh, hi, I guess you've seen this before. Don't think too hard about the timey-wimey implications of that. I guess the only question now is the video good enough to succeed? Please, 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 please. That's step 2 done. Once I do this, it's not in my control. This would be the point where I ask you to buy the game, to look over all the updates I've made, all the work I put in, the passion that I have, and ask you to buy it as if you're doing me a favour. But that doesn't feel right. Instead, make your own decision, based on what you've seen. If you think there might be something worth playing here, just give it a try. My hope is I've done a good enough job that the game speaks for itself. Ugh. There is a simple dream that I have. Being able to make my own stuff and make a comfortable living out of that. Nothing extravagant, just enough to support myself, but knowing it's off my art and my passion. There have always been people in my life, most often myself, that told me to take the safer option. Doubted that I had it in me. Could I really dedicate myself enough to handle all of this? The coding, the art, the marketing, all the other bullshit. Fucking watch me.